Hello, everybody. I see we have quite a few attendees already joining us today. Yeah, good afternoon from Bangkok, and good morning and good evening for those of you who are joining us from another time zone. And welcome to this session, Scaling Up Women's Access to Climate Technologies, Practices, and Adaptation Finance to Build Community Resilience as part of the second Gobeshona Global Conference. So this event is co-organized by UN Environment Programme's Global Adaptation Network, or GAN for short, and the Asia Pacific Adaptation Network, APAN. My name is Anna Kilponen, and I'm the regional liaison for GAN and one of the hosts of this session. I'm going to hand over to my colleague Helen, who is the host from APAN. So Helen, you can also say hi.
Hi, good day, everyone. I'm Helen, and I'm the coordinator of the Asia Pacific Adaptation Network. And happy to meet you all, and I wish you a good session. Thank you.
Thanks, Helen. So yeah, later in the session, Helen will be taking us through an interactive activity when we also hope to engage a bit more with you, our audience. So in this session, we'll be looking at the key challenges and successes in scaling up women's access to different climate technologies, practices, and finance by hearing from projects across the world, and specifically how these projects are addressing these challenges on the ground, working with communities. But before we get started, I just wanted to mention that this is a 90-minute session, and this session is being recorded. We also have a chat box open during the session, so please feel free to post questions, engage through the chat box with our speakers and us. And at the end of the session, we are planning to have a Q&A session during which you can also use the raise hand function to ask your question in addition to the questions posted in the chat. In the session, we also have two speakers who will be speaking Bangla and Spanish. So should you need translation for those languages, I wanted to bring your attention to the interpretation button on the bottom bar of your Zoom window. And by clicking that button, you can choose English language. Let's move. Can we move on to the next slide, please? So here, I just wanted to go briefly through the session agenda. And as you can see, we have quite a full session today with really interesting lineup of speakers and presentations. We will start the session with opening remarks from my colleague Mozaharul Alam, who I think most of you know better as Babu. And after that, we will have an interactive activity led by Helen, and then we will give the floor to the moderator of our session, Dilruba Haider, and our speakers. So we have 4 presentations today. We will be hearing first from the Empower project that is implemented in Bangladesh, Cambodia, and Vietnam. We will also be hearing about the NANUM Women Connected project in Argentina, Bolivia, and Paraguay, and a project that is implementing ecosystem-based adaptation in Sudan. And last but not least, we will also be hearing about a fund that supports ecosystem-based adaptation to climate change. And at the end, we also hope to have some time for discussion and Q&A. So please do post your questions in the chat. Next slide, please. So now we're going to start a session with the keynote speech, which will be delivered by my colleague Babu, who is the regional coordinator for climate action and the head of the APAN Secretariat at the UNEP Asia and the Pacific office, where he provides strategic and technical guidance to design and implement climate action in the region. After Babu, Helen will then take us through the interactive activity, and then we will give the floor to Dilruba. Dilruba is an expert in the field of disaster risk reduction, climate change, humanitarian actions, and gender equality. And she's currently working at the UN Women Asia Pacific Regional Office as program specialist on gender and climate change. So now I'm happy to give the floor to Babu for the opening remarks. So over to you, Babu.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Helen. And I'd like to thank Dilruba, who will be moderating the session, as well as the distinguished speakers and the participants. A good day to you all. First of all, I'd like to thank you for joining today for our session on scaling up women's access to climate change technologies, the practices, and the adaptation finance to build the community resilience in the 2022 the Gobeshona Global Conference. On behalf of United Nations Environment Programme, it's my privilege to welcome you to this session. The climate change remain one of the largest threats to the achievement of Sustainable Development Goals, including advancing the gender equality in the 21st century. Participants at the 9th Asia-Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development, which began yesterday and the discussion is continuing, have pronounced that the region is fast losing ground on its ability to achieve the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Even the Sustainable Development Goals related to the climate change, even is not progressing, it is basically retreating. So which is also very, very worried. Further, during the 66th session of the Commission on the Status of the Women, which is the principal global intergovernmental body exclusively dedicated to the promotion of the gender equality and the empowerment of the women, and their focus was on advancing the gender equality and the empowerment of all women and the girls in the context of climate change, environment, and the disaster risk reduction policies and the program. And the UNEP Executive Director, Inger Anderson, said that the world has had enough of male-dominated solutions. Also, in reinvigorating the environmental multilateralism, she also mentioned that it is critical that women be put at the heart of the decision-making. While the climate change impacts are already felt by all, this affect the people differently depending on the region, depending on the generation, the age group, the socioeconomic classes, the income group, and the gender individuals and the group who are marginalized. And without equal access to the decision-making, the education, the resources, are often disproportionately vulnerable to the climate hazard, as well as the less capable of adapting to climate conditions. Women and girls have been recognized as more vulnerable to climate change impact than men due to these inequalities, the dependencies on the natural resources, and the social norms. Dear participants, women and girls are involved in resilience building initiatives around the world and play a critical role in both climate change adaptation and the mitigation, using their knowledge and understanding of what is needed to adapt. Their knowledge, skills, the capacities, the leadership, as well as resource remain, however, too often largely untapped due to the political, social, and economic constraint. Unleashing the knowledge and the capability of both men and the women represents an important opportunity to craft the resilience building solution for the benefit of all. We all have heard about the IPCC, the latest report. While the IPCC Working Group 2 report mentioned about the requirement of increased international cooperation and strengthened engagement between the government at all levels, it also talked about enabling condition, and among many others enabling conditions, report has mentioned the need to enhance the knowledge on impacts and the solution. Dear participants, today you will be hearing from the different projects and the initiative across the world as we explore together the key challenges and the success in scaling up women access to climate technologies, practices, and the finance to build the community resilience. As we were reminded not long ago on the International Women's Day on 8th of March, without the gender equality today, a sustainable future and an equal future remains beyond our reach. Let me end by expressing our sincere thanks to all partners who have supported this different initiative and the project, and also joining us today for sharing their experiences in our session. I also would like to thank the Gobeshona conference organizers to give us the opportunity to share the experiences. And I wish you all a very fruitful discussions. Over to you, Anna.
Thank you, Babu. So I'm going to hand it over to Helen to do the interactive activity.
Okay, so thank you, everyone. Now, if it's possible, I would like you to go to Menti, so menti.com, and insert the code that you can see on the screen. Alternatively, you may also scan the QR code by using your device, your phone. Let me just... Apologies, I have to... Okay. So, good that participants are a little bit faster than I am. So, please, yeah, we would first like to know which country you're joining us from today, and thank you for already sending your answers.
Helen, can you share your screen? I think it's not visible, your screen at the moment.
Oh, really? Oh, I apologize. Okay, let me try again.
Yes, now we can see it. Thanks.
Okay, apologies. Okay, so yes, first question, which country are you joining us from today? I think we've already had a couple of answers. So I think we can move. So yeah, good to see that there is quite a high representation from Thailand and Bangladesh. So that's great. Keep the answers coming, and I'll move on to the next question. Oh, apologies, it seems that my computer froze.
Helen, I can share my screen from...
Yes, Anna, if you can share, sorry, I don't know, I'm...
Can you see my screen?
Okay, so yes, I can, for me, it's okay. I hope it's okay for the participants. Apologies, I don't know what's happening here. So yes, the next question was, what do you hope to get of today's session? So thank you for already providing some answers, and I'll try to move on quickly to our next. Can you present next slide? Okay, so we'll just do a very brief quiz with the numbers have been extracted from the Progress on the Sustainable Development Goals, the Gender Snapshot 2021. And it's just to give us a way to think a little bit more about today's session and the need to integrate gender equality to advance resilience building actions. Anna, if you can, sorry, move to the first question. So in low and middle income countries, how many fewer women than men have access to the internet on their mobile phones? That's the first question, and you may vote, and we'll show the correct answer right afterwards. So we give you a few more seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Anna, if you can click enter, it should show the. So yes, the correct answer was 234 million, which is quite a very high number. So yeah, we can go to the next question. In 2020, out of 170 investigated countries, how many % were actively working on gender mainstreaming in water management? So you may vote, and we'll show the correct answer. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Anna, if you want to show the correct answer. Yes, good. I think a lot of people already knew the answer, so that's great. And then our last question, worldwide, how many women hold parliamentary seats? So I'll give you a little bit of time. And yes, correct. We have Anna, you can enter the yes. So the right answer was 1 in 4. So yes, this was our quiz. So now we will get back to the presentation. Okay. So thank you for doing this little quiz with us. And now I will hand over to our moderator, Dilruba Haider. Thank you, Dilruba.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ellen, for getting us through that interesting, short and interesting quiz and exercise. So off to our presentations. As you have already heard, that we have some good lineup of speakers who will be presenting from different countries, who will be making some interesting presentations on gender and technology and adaptation efforts. Our first presenter is Parimita Mohanty. She's the program management officer from UNEP, Asia and the Pacific office. And she has some 19 years long experience and has extensively worked on sustainable energy, technology transfer, designing and implementing evidence-driven strategies and actions on climate change. And she will be presenting on Project Empower, which is being implemented in 3 countries in the region, Bangladesh, Cambodia, and Vietnam. And the project's aim is to strengthen women's participation in decision-making processes, improve data and knowledge, to integrate gender in climate and disaster risk reduction policies, and enable women to use renewable energy for resilient livelihoods. So over to you, Parimita.
Thank you, Dilruba. Hi, everyone. And this is really nice to meet you. And as mentioned by Dilruba, I will be presenting about Empower project. And as he already mentioned, this is a big project considering gender equality, climate change, and disaster risk reduction. However, because of time, I will focus much more on renewable energy, climate resilient livelihoods, and women entrepreneurship within the Empower project. So can we go to the next slide, please? Yes. So where do we work in Empower project? And Empower project, of course, it's a project jointly implemented by UN Women and UNEP, and it's funded by CEDA. And we have been working in 3 countries, Bangladesh, Vietnam, and Cambodia. And you can see all those provinces where basically we are working. And if I just say that those are few of the provinces where climate change impact are quite high, and at the same time, gender equality has been found as disproportionately evident in those areas. So that's why we have considered in those provinces and wanted to work on climate resilience and also on the gender equality issues. However, what we thought is if we can use renewable energy as a tool for climate resilience building, and if we can use renewable energy for women entrepreneurship development, that's where we are working. So in all those provinces in these 3 countries, we are focusing to see how renewable energy can be used as a tool for climate resilience building and can improve women's economic conditions. However, in addition to all these 3 countries, we are also working regionally in Southeast Asia and South Asia and sharing our knowledge, best practices, and also learning from other institutions on climate resilience and entrepreneurship development. Next slide, please. Okay, so the moment I say renewable energy and women entrepreneurship, the first question is, which are those important critical components where we should focus upon so that this kind of interventions would be much more sustainable and scalable? And what we found is that we need to work on policies and plans. We need to work on capacity development, access to finance, and business models. And Empower project has actually covered all those 4 different components, working with multi-stakeholders, be it from private sector, financing institutions, communities, to policymakers, to subnational governments, to all different kinds, CSOs, NGOs, so with all different kind of stakeholders. And focusing and trying to see how can we build one ecosystems around renewable energy and women entrepreneurship, which would be sustainable and scalable in future. I will go to the next slide where I will explain all those 4 components. This is the main slides where I just want to focus. And if you can see, the different kind of livelihood options that have been catered through renewable energy, be it for solar drinking water, be it for irrigation or mobile irrigation system, be it for solar drying, for different applications. So there are different kind of livelihood options which are available. So what we try to do is to see how women who are using these livelihood options can use renewable energy to augment their production, to augment their income, and how that intervention can also address the climate change impacts or the challenges. For example, there are certain drought-prone areas where they are not able to do irrigation throughout the year. That's why they are not able to produce lots of cultivations, but because of mobile irrigation systems, that's also a technological innovations. Because it's mobile, you can cover much more land depending upon the water requirement and increase the productivity. Similarly, drinking water, I know it's a big issue for Bangladesh with lots of arsenic content and other contaminations. So even solar drinking water can provide and can be a solution for the climate resilience buildings. And if we involve women for use that as a business and sell drinking water, it's definitely a win-win situation for all. So this is what Empower has been trying to see and create that nexus between women entrepreneurship, renewable energy, and climate resilience. And I'm glad to say that so far in all the 3 countries, depending upon the climate change impact and challenges, we have implemented 40 enterprises, women enterprises, using renewable energy for climate resilience and for economic benefits. And we are supporting 425 women beneficiaries directly and somewhere around 1,500 women indirectly. So can we go to the next slide? Okay, so now focusing more on the Bangladesh one. So in Bangladesh, we have been working with IDCOL. As you know, that's one of the pioneer financing institutions. So we create the Empower Fund. We actually created a kind of financing instrument in all the 3 countries where the finance would be available at an affordable rate for women to establish their business. So that's something what we have tried. We have provided a number of training, skill sets and capacities to the women, as you can see in these photos, and then we implement the project. And in Bangladesh, as you can see, we have number of different livelihood options. It's goat cultivation, chicken cultivation, bioflux-based fish culture. This is a completely new upcoming technological solutions which can resist the climate change impact, and you can still use and keep growing the fish during flood, during drought season, and get the revenue out of it. So these are different kind of livelihood options what we tried in Bangladesh, and we continue supporting them in growing their business, in establishing and sustaining, scaling up those enterprises further. I will stop here, and maybe we'll see what we try is to hear from the ground from Ms. Rati Khatun to see her journey, her experience, and then see what she has earned and gained from this particular project. So maybe we'll just see if she is available now for a brief introduction and interactions. It seems probably they have a challenge. I know they have joined the Zoom link, and if she is not available,
Barometer, do you know what's under which name they joined?
Samim from Wave Foundation.
I don't see anybody on the line.
Okay, they have actually messaged me that they have already joined. Nevertheless, okay.
Yes, yeah.
So
let
maybe
me see. I
Saidul.
can try to.
Hi, Saidul. Can you hear us? Or Samim, can you hear us? Hello. It seems there is a connectivity issues. So maybe what, by the time we try, maybe what we can do, we have a video where Reti has already explained and mentioned about the kind of challenges that they have faced earlier before the implementation of Empower project and how it has been beneficial. So we'll put it in the chat box. all those videos from Bangladesh, from Vietnam, and from Cambodia. Maybe you can see those.
Excuse me.
Later on. Hi, Samim. Can you hear us?
Yes, I'm Shamim from Web Foundation. We're working on the intervention, the goat rearing, but I'm from Dhaka. But in the field, Saidul Islam maybe is with Saidul Islam. Please, if we allow Saidul Islam as a guest, maybe he's talk directly with the Reti Khatun, please. Saidul Islam.
Saidul is also. Saidul, can you hear us?
Assalamu alaikum.
Hi, Miss Rati is with you now. Can we talk to her?
Parvati, please, if we talk with in Bengali is more.
Saidul, আমি পরিহিতা বলছি।
জি জি বলেন, শুনতে পাচ্ছি।
রেতি আপা আছে আপনার সাথে?
আছে, আমার সাথে আছে।
আচ্ছা, আপনি ভিডিওটা একটু অন করবেন?
আসসালামু আলাইকুম।
হ্যাঁ, রেতি আপা কেমন আছেন?
আপনি ভালো আছেন আপা?
হ্যাঁ, ভালো আছি। আচ্ছা, আমি না অ্যাকচুয়ালি কনফারেন্সে বলছি, এখানে আমরা একটু শুনতে চাইছি কি আপনার যে এক্সপেরিয়েন্সটা সোলার পাওয়ার প্রজেক্টে নিয়ে কি রকম হয়েছে, আপনি চ্যালেঞ্জেসটা কি রকম ফেস করেছেন, এখনো আপনি কি করছেন, আর আপনার প্ল্যানটা কি আগে একটু আপনার এক্সপেরিয়েন্সটা শেয়ার করবেন?
ও আমাদের
আপনাকে না একটু সংক্ষেপে বলতে হবে 2-3 মিনিটের মধ্যে। সরি, টাইমটা একটু ইয়ে করে।
হ্যাঁ ঠিক আছে। আমাদের অনেক 10 ছাগল দিয়েছে, মা ছাগল। সেই ছাগলের লালন পালন করে বাচ্চা খাওয়া দাওয়া করে লালন পালন করে সেই ছাগলের বাচ্চা হলে আমরা একটু লাভবান হতে পারি, তাছাড়া কি করবো, সেইটাই পালন করছি।
রেতি আপা,
হ্যাঁ
বলে আমি দিলরুবা হায়দার, আমি পারিমিতা দির সাথে কাজ করি। তো আপনি ছাগল তো সবাই পালে, কিন্তু এই যে আপনার এখানে একটা সোলার প্যানেলও আছে, তো এই সোলার প্যানেল হওয়াতে আপনার ছাগল পালন করাতে কি উপকার হয়েছে সেটা যদি একটুখানি খুব তাড়াতাড়ি।
খুব ভালো উপকার হয়েছে, খুব ফাইন উপকার হয়েছে, আমাদের ছাগলের খুব উপকার হয়েছে, ভালো হয়েছে।
আচ্ছা,
পানি পাচ্ছি, জায়গা পাচ্ছি, খাদ্য পাচ্ছি, সবই পাচ্ছি।
আচ্ছা, মানে সোলার প্যানেল হওয়াতে আপনার ছাগল পালন করতে বেশি সুবিধা হয়েছে কি?
হ্যাঁ 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 হ্যাঁ, খুব সুবিধা হয়েছে।
আচ্ছা, পারিমিতা, ডু ইউ ওয়ান্ট টু?
হ্যাঁ, জায়গা পাচ্ছি, জায়গা আমাকে ভালো, তো জায়গা আছে, খুব ভালো হচ্ছে।
আর আপনার প্ল্যানটা, আপনি কি ছাগল মানে ব্যবসায় শুরু হয়ে গেছে? আপনি মার্কেটে ওটা কি বিক্রি শুরু হয়ে গেছে?
ও হ্যাঁ, বড় হয়ে গেছে, মার্কেটে বিক্রি করার মতো বিক্রি করব।
আচ্ছা, ঠিক আছে।
হ্যাঁ,
আচ্ছা দিলরুবা,
আমরা ছাগল আরো বাড়াতে চাই আপা।
আচ্ছা আচ্ছা, অনেক ধন্যবাদ রেতি দি, আপনার সাথে কথা বলে খুব ভালো লাগলো। আপনি এত দূর থেকে আমাদের সাথে যুক্ত হয়েছেন, এইটার জন্য আমাদের খুব ভালো লাগছে। মানে চুয়াডাঙ্গা মানে অনেক দূর, আমরা ঢাকায় বসে আছি।
আমারও ভালো লাগছে,
অনেক
আপনার সাথে কথা বলে আমি খুব খুশি হলাম, খুব খুশি হয়েছি।
অনেক ধন্যবাদ রেতি দি এবং সাইদুল, আপনাকে অনেক ধন্যবাদ।
আচ্ছা,
থ্যাংক ইউ।
ভালো থাকেন। হ্যাঁ, ঠিক আছে। Okay, I am not sure. I think probably I'll just translate that for a second, because what I'm seeing from the chat box that maybe there is no translation from Bengali to English, or it's not available. So of course what she has said that she now is doing her goat cultivation, and she is very happy with the use and the integration of the solar photovoltaic system with the goat cultivation, where she can use drinking water for goat and can light, fan, and those kind of things for goatry cultivation. And she is very happy. She wants to in fact expand her business, And now she is looking for selling those goats which are already grown up into the market and earn revenue out of it. And she is looking forward for more expansions and scaling up of those particular enterprises in future. So it's really good to hear from her from the field, and maybe we can have more interaction in future. So with this, I would stop here. And if there is any question, of course, we can take it in the question and answer sessions. So with this, thank you so much to all of you. And over to you, Dilruba. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Paramita. That was very interesting. I mean, it's always heartening to hear voices from the field. These are the women who are actually the frontliners, the fighters against our fight or war, if you may, against climate change. Our next speaker is Dr. Fabiana Mena, and she is an anthropologist and gender and climate change specialist from GAN Chao Foundation and president of Nanum Women Connected Project. The Nanum project is about connecting women, which aims at empowering women as leaders of technological transformation for adaptation to climate change. This project builds on previous initiatives on connectivity and climate change adaptation, and to promote access to data and information for making climate smart decisions, adaptive planning, and the mobilization of public and private investments. So over to you, Dr. Fabiana Mena.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, as you said, the project that we are going to present and to share our experience with you is called Nanum, Women Connected. It is located in South America, in the Gran Chaco region, which is a region that involves three countries, the north of Argentina, Bolivia, and Paraguay. And the main goal of the project is to increase the resilience capacity of the most isolated community of the territory, reducing the damages of climate change. You can pass to the other slide, please. Well, the initiative is based in a very wide alliance driven by Gran Chaco Foundation that I represent today, and other organizations as Avina Foundation, SUNU, and Nativa in Bolivia. And we are supported mainly by IDB Innovation Lab, but also we are working with other organizations, not only governmental, but also private sector and companies such as Microsoft, for example. Well, the main project, the main aims of the project is to achieve to scale up, and accelerate the adaptation capacity of this community through three simultaneously axes that are organization, connectivity, and innovation. First of all, we are working to improve or to install the connectivity infrastructure to take internet to the community. Our first step is to connect and face or overcome the isolation, as a structural problem of this territory. But it's not only about to take connectivity, but also to involve or to make it together with a local organization, with women organization. No? So from the first step, we train local people, women, and especially young people in the installation of the service and the maintenance of the internet service, forming small local companies in the management of the connectivity. On the other hand, at the same time, we strengthen women organization capacity, because the local association, as Jessica who is today with me, will share her experience with you in a minute. It's not only about to improve their administration capacity, but also manage the relation with other actors, mediating the conflict in local conflict and so on. No, it's a very complex intervention in this community. And finally, we drive an innovation process based not only in improve the access to different kind of digital tools that already exist, but we also work with women organization in think and develop new tools, such as this application that it's showing this in the slide, which is, for example, it is one of the different tools that we are developing together with the communities to install an early warning system in the community, improving the access to the meteorological data, but also sending different kind of alerts to the producer, this 40 community we are working are facing different kind of problem, now floods, drought, fires, and of course their production is in danger now many times during the year. So this is our strategy to make more resilient this community and driven a kind of meaningful connectivity, no, to contribute to reduce different gaps that women are facing today, such as access to climate information, climate data, of course, but also market, credit, and increase their participation in the making decision tables. So I'm going to introduce Jessica. Jessica, bienvenida. Si puedes activar tu micrófono, so she can share her experience with you and the impact that the initiative is producing in her own community. Jessica, can you hear us? Jessica, ¿podés escucharnos? Perfecto, ahí te escuchamos y te vemos.
Hola. Bueno, yo estoy muy contenta de participar y comentar un poco lo que venimos trabajando con la conectividad en nuestra comunidad, porque nosotros somos un grupo de mujeres de 160 mujeres Pilagá. Estamos en la provincia de Formosa, Argentina, y estamos dentro de una cooperativa de 2.600 mujeres indígenas que nos benefició a nosotros como comunidad, porque nosotros que vivimos en el campo, en zonas muy aisladas, hay veces no teníamos la conexión de internet, y entonces con estos proyectos nosotros aportamos a la comunidad. También el tema de la salud, cuando se necesitaba una ambulancia, nosotros teníamos que ir hasta la ruta a poder mandar un mensaje para que venga la ambulancia y todo eso. Pero con estos proyectos nosotros hemos tenido las capacitaciones para mejorar nuestra organización en el sistema de venta, las artesanías, capacitar a los jóvenes dentro de las comunidades, nosotras mismas, pero primero nos capacitamos nosotros con NANUM, y la verdad que nosotras estamos muy contentas de que podamos contar nuestra experiencia desde nuestra organización con ustedes, y estamos haciendo las ventas por internet, comunicándonos con otras comunidades que también están aisladas. Tenemos nuestro propio instalaciones ahora domiciliarias que antes no teníamos, y comentarle eso.
Thank you. So, Diruba, I think the floor is to you.
Thank you so very much. It's been wonderful to listen to you, Jessica, from such a long away from where I am sitting. And you said yourself that you are from a very remote area, and it's lovely to hear you talking and joining this session with us, and all of us hearing your story. It's very encouraging. Thank you so very much. And a huge thanks to Fabiana for introducing us to your wonderful project, and to Jessica. Thank you so very much. Our next speaker is Dr. Amna Ahmed Abdullah El Tahir. She's from Sudan Ecosystem-Based Approach Project, which is called Enhancing the Resilience of Communities Living in Climate Change Vulnerable Areas of Sudan. She joined EDA project in 2018 as White Nile State Coordinator, validated the climate change adaptation packages for sesame, groundnut, and sorghum crops under White Nile State rain-fed sector. And these climate-smart technologies include improved seeds, early maturity, drought-resistant varieties, water harvesting, improved husbandry practices. And she has been responsible for climate resilience of rain-fed farmer and pastoral communities in regions of high rainfall variability. So she will be talking about the project, this system-based approach project. Over to you, Dr. Amna Ahmed Abdullah El Tahir.
Thank you so much. Experience from Sudan Ecosystem-Based Adaptation Project. This is by Amna Tahir, State Coordinator. We are working in 43 villages with approximately 8,000 households located in White Nile State. This is within semi-arid zone, semi-dry and dry, with annual rainfall ranging from 200 up to 600 millimeters. Communities in this area are depending on traditional smallholder rain-fed agriculture and livestock, running for their livelihood. Yes? This photo shows the vulnerability of White Nile State. It is among the most vulnerable climate change hotspots are affected by frequent drought and flood in Sudan. Notably, in this region, Sahara Desert is advancing at a rate of about 1 mile a year, eliminating grazing land and water holes. Increased frequency of flood and drought is also causing devastating impact on local communities' livelihood. Death of livestock, destruction of farm lands and properties, crop failure, among others. Communities in this project site have a very low adaptive capacity to the impact of climate change. Yes, please. The next slide, please. Challenges facing women. Women and children are among the most vulnerable and extremely affected by climate change impact. During drought period, they have to walk long distance, some for more than 20 kilometers.
sometimes even during night-time insertion of water. Search for food and firewood is also very difficult during dry season. Women and children are also left behind in village as men migrate to other areas in search of pasture and work. Young girls are forced to drop out of school to assist with family cares. Some project sites have no secondary school for girls, so these girls don't allow to be abroad for school. Next, please. This photo shows the responsibility of children to bring water. They are suffering for drinking water. Yes. Next, please. The intervention would address the climate change impact that affect women, inclusive in village level governance structure. 43 village development committees have been established with at least 30% women. The village development committee also allow women to express gender-related issues and also to participate in capacity building and other opportunities in the project. This includes defining, planning, and implementation of EBA intervention in their respective village. Interestingly, the care of one of the largest village development committee is a woman. This is a great milestone in the context of particular society in Sudan. Fortunately, today, Mr. Fatma with us. She can speak after me. Yes, please. Also, the most intervention restoration of ecosystem service. This construction water harvesting infrastructure. 3 hafils or dams with 30,000 cubic meters have been constructed, providing water to more than 8,000 households. Provision of water has helped to reduce time used by women and children in search of water, and thus have more time to participate in other development entities. Enhancement of integrated productive agriculture system. This through provision of improved groundnut seed. This improved ground seed is part of an agriculture package that includes early maturity and drought-tolerant varieties. And we are making training on agronomic practice and post-harvesting and also in situ water harvesting in farm, application of appropriate fertilizer, mixed crop, application of appropriate agriculture implement, just like kissing plow in the clay soil, and what we call it locally harbash in sandy soil. All of this practice to conserve soil water. Also, distribution of vegetable seed and different variety of fruit seedlings to establish Dubraka home garden for vegetable and fruit production. Yes, please. Also, there are alternative livelihood intervention. This is include provision of 20 small ruminant shami improved goat to supply milk to the children, inclusion of gender-specific intervention in the revolving fund, and also distribution of 43 poultry cages. This is 43 selected women, one in each targeted village, to promote modern poultry rearing. The most advanced intervention that is gender-specific adaptation technology is distribution of improved foodstuff to 8,389 households. That means all of the
গাড়িতে যেতে পারতাম এটুকু কত
sorry
Saidul, আপনি নিজেকে মিউট করেন প্লিজ।
Next, please.
Yes, Dr. Amna, please go ahead. There was somebody who was unmuted.
This photo shows the backyard gardening and fruit trees production. This involved in application of most of the villages, targeted villages. Yes, please. So we can go dive for the lesson learned. Inclusion of women during the establishment of community level governance structure. Village development committees has provided an entry point to address some of the relevant cultural barriers regarding gender equality and participation of women in adaptive process in Sudan. And also the main thing is strategic gender targeted intervention are important in scaling up women's access to climate technologies, practice, and finance to build resilience in communities. Okay. Thank you. So I would like to let the floor to my colleague Fatma. I would like to give the floor to participants from the villages. Fatma.
Yeah. Fatima, are you online?
Yes, it's me. Yeah.
Oh, okay, she's there. Okay, sorry.
Can she proceed?
Yes, please.
Hi, I am Fatima Amin, the chair of Rawat Village Development Community. I would like to tell about the Sudan IBA project and the advantage which the women in the project village has achieved and the opportunities for solving many challenges facing rural women. First, raising an awareness about women's the climate change and the roles women can play to adopt. Two, also women rights, the equity and participation in the society before we do not even attend meeting with me. Now I am proud that I am the chair of Rawat Village Development Community, the biggest village in the area, cluster of 33 villages. Second, the most difficult things use it to be drinking water for the families and especially the children who used to walk for long distance in harsh area. Many children do not go to school, but they do fetish for water. Now, water is somewhat closer to the village, and we have more time to look after families and children who go to school. The most useful intervention is the distribution of improved cook stove, which is inventive than button gas for the poor families. which has many benefits. Reduce the consumption of the firewood by half, reducing cooking time. One can engage in other work while she is cooking. Also, health benefits and clean place. Also, there are many others interventions which help the women and help the health. To access adaptive technologies are improved and drought seeds varieties, vegetable seeds, early maturing varieties, geographic or home garden. Improved goats in some projected area, it called chamois. Poultry gets access to the revolving found wire. Just we end it every useful experience sharing visit. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fatima. I think it was good to hear that, being a leader of Village Development Committee has empowered you and you have been able to work for your community. That's very heartening to hear. Thank you so very much. Can I request all the participants to, if you have any question, to put in the chat box. I think we have probably some technical problem with the question and answer field there. So if you have any question or comment, please do put that in the chat box. So we go to our next panelist, this next speaker, who is Ms. Nora Jenny. I hope I have pronounced her name correctly. And she's the Associate Program Management Officer, Global EBA Fund UNEP. She is working with she has been part of the team managing the Global Ecosystem-Based Adaptation Fund, jointly implemented with the International Union for Conservation of Nature, IUCN. And she has worked over the past 8 years in the field of dryland management and climate change resilience in Africa and Southeast Asia. So over to Nora. Nora, yeah.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Nora Ngeny. Thank you so much, Delruba, and the organizers for putting together this session and inviting us to speak today. So I'll be presenting together with my colleague. Her name is Wendy Atieno, who's my counterpart working with the International Union for Conservation of Nature. So it's a real pleasure to be here with you today. And I'm going to be talking about the Global Ecosystem-Based Adaptation Fund, which is a fund that was created and launched last year, 2021, providing rapid and targeted support for innovative approaches to ecosystem-based adaptation. Next slide, please. So what does this fund do? Why was this fund created? This fund was put together through the funding from the federal government of Germany, its International Climate Initiative, which has given 30 million euros to the fund. This fund is intended to actually support innovative and catalytic actions that help to overcome barriers related to ecosystem-based adaptation. In the next slide, I will actually talk about what we understand as ecosystem-based adaptation. And what does scaling up of EBA actually mean? sorry, the previous slide, please. What does scaling up of EBA actually mean? One, it's related to building awareness and understanding about what ecosystem-based adaptation actually is, addressing issues related to planning, governance, as well as other gaps in that area, institutional governance issues related to that, as well as seeking solutions to address different financing gaps that people are facing when trying to access funding for nature-based solutions. Next slide, please. So the fund focuses on something called ecosystem-based adaptation. Ecosystem-based adaptation is basically a type of nature-based solution that is where locally appropriate actions address challenges to climate change as well as climate risks. And the definition that we use is the one by the Convention on Biodiversity, as shown on your screen. EBA is considered as the use of biodiversity and ecosystem services as a part of the overall adaptation strategy. One, to help people to adapt to adverse climate change, as well as to help nature. Next slide, please. So what does the Global EBA Fund? One, we'd like to focus on projects that contribute to the overall EBA system as we have just defined, or ecosystem-based adaptation, which results to catalytic impact, being able to create an impact beyond the place that the activity is actually being implemented, as well as projects that add value and scale up existing work. So we do prioritize funds or applicants who are, one, well-grounded in the area of work that they are working in, have experience in the type of projects that they are applying to the fund, and projects that are inclusive of local communities with indigenous knowledge, use of gender perspectives. My colleague will speak a little more on the gender responsiveness component. Next slide, please. So through the Global EBA Fund, we give funds of between 50,000 to 250,000 to grant applicants who are successful, for them to implement projects up to 36 months in total. So applicants can either be from or implementing projects in countries, either single countries or multiple countries that are eligible for official development assistance, ODA. This list is available on our website on the page What We Fund. We shall provide a link to the Global EBA Fund page, I think, for more information. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Nora.
I think from this point, I'm going to hand over to my colleague who has been managing through IUCN, have been managing the grant, and can now provide additional information on the types of recipients, where we are so far with the fund, and the gender component. So over to you, Wendy.
Thank you, Nora. I don't know if everybody can hear me. Can you hear me? No? Can you all hear me?
We can hear you, Wendy.
Okay, great. Yeah, so just talking about the recipients of the fund, the Global EBA Fund is open then to all manner of organizations. We're looking at local NGOs and large international non-governmental organizations, community-based organizations, indigenous people organizations, research organizations, think tanks, looking also at academic and scientific communities, with a particular focus on vulnerable communities and indigenous peoples, as well as private sector. The only exception to this list of potential recipients of the Global EBA Fund are UNEP and IUCN offices, who then are precluded from applying to the fund for reasons of bias, and you know, it would be unfair for UNEP and IUCN offices then to receive this funding, as well as government partners. So our main donor, which is the German government Ministry of Environment, has prevents getting grants through the ICCCAD, the International Climate Initiative, to government partners. And this is because the German government itself has bilateral agreements with different countries. And so government partners, municipal governments, and state agencies are expected to be receiving their funding from those partnerships. In addition to this, of course, the eligibility of these organizations for the fund includes that organizations are legally registered as organizations and do have at least a year of audited financial statements. But broadly speaking, all organizations that do meet this eligibility criteria can apply. For private sector, you have to be able to use the fund towards non-profit making activities. So as a for-profit, you can apply, but as long as the money received from the Global EBA Fund is not going to profit-making activities. Next slide, please. Thank you. And so talking about EBA, at the core, ecosystem-based adaptation needs to be gender responsive. There are, broadly speaking, 5 criteria of EBA. I'm just going to go through them very quickly, but you would be able to get more information on the Global EBA Fund website, which is www.globalebafund.org. And so when we're looking at those criteria, you have EBA reduces social and environmental vulnerabilities in the context of climate change. EBA generates benefits in the context of climate change, and EBA restores, maintains, or improves ecosystem health. Number 4 is that EBA is supported by policies at all levels, so including local, subnational, regional. So if we're talking about ASEAN or the Southern Africa Development Community, SADC, and also global policies. And the last criteria is that EBA promotes equitable governance. So for 3 out of 5 of those criteria, that EBA reduces social and environmental vulnerabilities, that it provides and generates societal benefits, and that EBA promotes equitable governance, questions of people, and particularly women, are key. You're looking at who is getting those benefits and how are those benefits distributed, who is most vulnerable, and who gets to be involved and included in decision-making processes. So you see then gender responsiveness is at the core of these criteria, and thus for potential applicants, the EBA Fund then encourages the development of projects which are gender responsive, as well as not just in the implementation of the project, but also in the design. So you're looking at how these projects are designed, who gets consulted through that process. Thank you. Next slide. And so talking about how to apply, at our last deadline, which was February 28th, we have received almost 1,200 applications. A lot of those are coming from a broad spectrum of organizations, including small NGOs. So the fund accepts applications twice a year. The first deadline for 2022 was 28th February. The next one is coming up on July 15th, 2022. So you have, just about 2 months to finish applications and submit. However, if any of these applications are received after the cutoff date, so say you are aiming for 15th July, but unfortunately, the proposal came in and was ready on 16th July, this will then be considered for the next application deadline. And this is essentially automatic, that if, depending on when you receive, when the applications are received, whatever cutoff it is, all those are going to be considered together. And the Global EBA Fund very strongly encourages collaborations and joint applications. We're looking to see capacity of small organizations increased. And so think about who you're partnering with, think about who traditionally has not been involved in questions of environmental governance and ecosystem-based adaptation. Who are those unlikely matches that can be promoted through your project? And of course, this is just a suggestion. It depends on the context. It depends on wherever you're based and the kind of project that you're proposing. Those are the questions that then will determine what kind of partnerships will be considered unlikely matches. And last slide, please. So yes, Nora had posted a number of links in the chat, but also the slide includes a link to the website, as well as the email to send. If you have any questions, do send your questions to contact.ebafund@iucn.org. And with that, I want to say thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Wendy and Nora, for your presentation on EBA project and the Global EBA Fund. Very encouraging to see the opportunities of financing for local adaptation and ecosystem-based probably natural resource-based adaptation approaches that some of the small organizations, including women's organizations, probably could access and carry forward some of the critical adaptation initiatives at the local level. I think it's now question answer time. I think we don't have a lot of time. Probably we have something like 10 minutes or so. We have got some questions in the chat box. If I can share with you, there was a question to Parimita about, the question was like, what were the major challenges in demonstrating project activities in the community to empower women, support women and support their business? Parimita?
Thank you, Dilruba, and thank you for this question, which is also quite critical. So yes, there were challenges, and the challenges are mainly in terms of providing access to finance to women who are interested to start their enterprises. And of course, this kind of instruments are not available for them. So how to convince financing institutions to involve women and provide access to finance in an affordable rate has been a challenge. Of course, we worked a lot. We work very closely with number of financing institutions and establish dedicated credit lines specifically for women and developing the financing instruments. The second challenge was more on the skill development side, because there are a number of enterprises who have either just started the business or are interested to start. So they were not very updated about, or they are not very acquainted and equipped with the kind of skills that is required to run on business. So we develop a kind of need-based, tailor-made training modules around that. And the third point, and that the last point, what I would say is how to convince the subnational governments and the government that this is also a equally profitable proposition to involve women and give them opportunity to grow economically, socially, and of course bring more environmental benefits. For that, of course, we work number of provincial action plans and national action plans and create the evidence on the ground and involve the stakeholders, government stakeholders, with the evidence that it works. So those are few of the challenges and how we address those challenges. So I would stop here, Dilruba. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, there's, I see Argentina, can't see her full name here. There are some, I think there is a sort of a comment there. But also there is another question, and that one is to if I can go back to that question. Okay. I think that's that one is to Fabiana and Jessica, and that's in Spanish, I think. So Fabiana, you wanna come and
yes,
comment?
it's about the sustainability.
Right.
Of the internet companies, local companies. Well, each NANUM, each internet company is based in a business plan, which includes all the costs and expected income, because each family pays their monthly subscription to have the service. So the family can pay. It's important to clarify that families can pay because through internet they can improve their incomes. Each organization, as Jessica explained, Jessica Association, is a producer organization. The organization, Jessica organization, for example, they are artisans, but we also work with beekeepers, ranchers, different kind of economic activities. So through internet, we improve their own activity so that we increase their incomes, and also we lower their cost, for example, transportation cost. And in this, the business plan of this NANOM is based in the scale. No, the scale is the key is the key of the sustainability of the initiative. So for each NANOM, the business plan show us that we achieve a break-even point, reaching 200 household connection, and the network it's in 3,000 household connection. Such only an example, during the pandemic, the artisan of the cooperative, Jessica Cooperative, as she said, they are 2,600 artisan women in this network. They improve their sales in about 40%, while the other entrepreneurs of the region, had to face a very drastic crisis of their own activity. So in this is a concrete example to how the internet can not only increase the resilience of the climate change effect, but also a global crisis as the pandemic provoked in these last 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Argentina. Now we have seen also in Bangladesh, we have seen how internet has drastically changed the way people do business, the way people live, especially during the pandemic. I mean, the world has gone to the digital world, and the women. There are a lot of women entrepreneurs who have taken to the internet platforms to do their business and whatnot. Okay, so there is another question I see from Job Khatri, I think, but didn't understand the question. If that participant is online, you might ask the question, because the question is, did you ever face the problem of capture? I didn't understand what the question is about. Maybe Dr. Khatri, if you are there.
Can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you, Dilruba. Thank you. In a male-dominated society, there is always a tendency not to give easily grants projects exclusively for women. That was my question. How did they overcome? If that were an issue there?
Okay.
Did you get my point?
Not entirely.
In case of Nepal, Bangladesh, or India, in Southeast Asia, the tendency in a male-dominated society, there is always a tendency from the men not to give access to resources for women, exclusively run by women communities. Did you face such kind of problem? It's basically getting those kind of projects for women exclusively.
Okay, got that. Okay, maybe I don't know who would like to answer that question.
Maybe Mohantiji can do it.
Yeah, Parimita, you want to take that?
Sure. No, it's a good question, and we know that that's a challenge. And we also know that these kind of social, cultural challenges are not going to be solved probably in or through one project, or maybe in 1 year. So what we try to do through our project is to have some transparent discussions, and also to take the male counterpart along with the process while institutionalizing the things on the ground. For example, while discussing with the communities, it's not that we just want to discuss the things with the women, but we also make sure that the male are also equally participated, contributed, and see how the constructive discussions can happen where women can be promoted. So it's basically how to bring those benefits while considering the views from both the end, and not to create a conflict in the society by introducing something. So that's something what sensibly we have taken care of. In the skill development program also, there are a number of occasions where even the wife, they said that initially they want to bring their husband to the programs so that they feel comfortable. So we allow that. It's not that we just don't allow and create that barrier, that socially barrier. So it's more on the acceptance level and bringing different communities together and create that acceptance, social acceptance. Slowly, of course, but we're quite hopeful that one day we'll have a real gender equal society.
Thank you, Paramita ji. Wonderful, fantastic. I think pretty much covered. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we just have to keep in mind that we are talking about not a women's world. We are talking about a gender equal world where both men and women should get the opportunities. However, because we live in a world where women are behind the men. So in terms of the equity question, we at this point in time in our human history, we have to give a little more attention to women to bring them up to the level where at a stage when we can give equal attention and equal rights to both men and women, when they will be able to equally reap the benefit of the assistance and the support. I think we have come to the end to the question and answer session, because we are running, I think, almost behind the time, because we have about 2 to 3 minutes to end this session. So over to Anna for concluding remarks. Over to you, Anna.
Thank you, Dilruba, and thank you to our speakers and to our audience for this, for your active participation during the Q&A, and then thank you for your flexibility with some of the technical issues we've had today during our session. I wish we had more time to continue the discussion, but I'm afraid we need to close the session. I just wanted to really briefly summarize some of the key points. So today we've really heard about some of the key challenges women face in terms of accessibility to climate change technologies, practices, also knowledge and finance, and learned some approaches on how these challenges are being addressed through projects in the local level. First, we heard from the Empower project that supports women entrepreneurs on renewable energy and enhances climate resilient livelihood options through capacity development and supporting gender equality policies and also strengthening access to finance. We also heard from the NANUM project that empowers women as leaders of technological transformation by training women in digital skills and strengthening adaptation capacity and women's connectivity and access to climate knowledge and information. We also had a presentation from the ecosystem-based adaptation, or EBA, project in Sudan that works to enhance community resilience by implementing EBA and promoting alternative livelihoods and gender-specific adaptation technologies. And also heard how that project strengthens women's participation in community-level governance structures. And we also had an interesting presentation on global EBA funds that supports innovative approaches to EBA and scaling up of EBA by building awareness and understanding and addressing planning and governance and financing gaps. And we also heard about the importance of gender responsiveness when it comes to ecosystem-based adaptation actions and interventions. So I think with that, I wanted to take the opportunity to thank you, our audience, for tuning in today. I want to thank our keynote speaker, Babu, and Dilruba for the excellent moderation of the session. Thank you so much for our distinguished speakers, Farimita, Ms. Reti Khatun, Fabiana, Jessica, Dr. Amna, and Ms. Fatima, Nora and Wendy, for your presentations and for sharing your experiences with us. Thank you so much. Before we close, I just wanted to mention that and encourage our audience to take a look at the Gobeshona conference websites and the schedule to join other sessions, as there are lots of interesting events taking place this week on locally led adaptation. So with that, we will conclude this session. Thank you so much, everybody.